In 95 years, the Premiership pennant has never left Victoria. In just a few short hours, history might be made. From Perth on Australia's west coast, the Eagles have arrived for their second successive tilt at glory. They are the favourites, a tough, match-hardened combination in just their sixth season in league football.
You woke up on the morning of the game and you hadn't had much sleep because you're very, very nervous. You're playing in front of 100,000 people and a huge audience around Australia. You want the team to do well, you want to do well personally. And then walking over to the ground, in amongst the crowd that was actually going in there, we had people like KARL and Peter Wilson that everybody hated. And so they were yelling and screaming abuse and whatever else. And I remember that distinctly.
I was offered a pink dummy by a Geelong supporter who ripped it out of his child's mouth and said, "Here, suck on this, Langdon." So I took it and started sucking on it. And I thought, well, I'll just keep this because this is something that just helps drive the feeling home, Again, it's that hostile environment.
There's probably 30,000 and they made it like a bit of a gateway for us to walk through, and people just shouting out, "Matera, you're gone in the first five." And I just couldn't believe it. And Serge Miller said to me, "It's all right, Ruud, you'll be fine."
We were all West Australians in that first grand final, which was unique and probably will never ever be achieved again. Then Mix tells us pre-game, after we've done all our warm-up, last story, he tells us a war story about 18 men who go to war, and if you can run, you can walk, if you walk, you can crawl, and goes through all of the features. And then at the end of it, he gives us this A4 piece of paper with the words "death before defeat" on it.
One of the stories I've told regularly about the '92 grand final was I thought I was in for a good game because the night before the game I was asleep, but I assumed I was dreaming. Just kept hearing my name getting a kick, commentators calling my name out, WORSFOLD getting a kick, WORSFOLD playing well, good tackle. And then I woke up and Summer was still awake. It was 3 a.m. and Summer was watching the all-night football broadcast, and the 1988 final against Melbourne was the game that was on, which I was obviously playing in. So it wasn't a dream, I was actually hearing my name called out. So anyway, I just remember waking up and saying, "Summer, you got to get to sleep, we're going to play."
And already some pushing and shoving with McIntosh and Brownless. The 92 grand final is underway.
Running out in the ground, there's 50,000 on one side, and you turn around, there's 50,000 on the other side. So there's, I think it was 96 or 97,000 on the day, but I actually see Don Pike get knocked out and seen him laying on the ground, and it was just one of those things to see him come back on the ground, just the courage that he showed. We were just not going to, we're never going to lose that game, and for me to kick 5 on a wing, it was just teammates' help, and again, outside 50, no way am I going to miss.
A delicate little chip to the run of MATERA. Suddenly the Eagles are alive. MATERA sets sail for home, and the Eagles.
It was actually an emergency that year with guys like Phil Scott, real solid-earth guys, real great clubmen. And in the lead up to the grand final, we were flying over with the team, and we're thinking, what can we do? We can't help physically during the game because we're not playing. And so Scotty and I were sitting up the front, and after a couple of bourbons, we decided that what we would do, and it's a brilliant idea, was we would write this letter, this sort of passionate, sort of emotional letter to the team on behalf of the guys who missed out, like myself and Andrew Lockyer and Phil Scott, and I think there was about 5 or 6 others. So we sat down, and basically we just, being a bit older, we sort of wrote a letter saying, look, when you're young, you think that every grand final, every premiership that you're playing, that there's going to be another one just around the corner. But they come along because the Eagles have been pretty sport. We've played in 2 grand finals in a row, and we were sort of trying to get across to the boys that you've got to grab this opportunity, and you've got to grab it on behalf of the guys who couldn't be there, who couldn't take their place in history, because we knew we were going to miss out on history. The first ever flag of the West Coast Eagles. Those 20 blokes will never be forgotten, right? Trevor Nisbett, so we emailed it to Trevor Nisbett, or gave it to Trevor Nisbett, and apparently he read it out to the boys before the game, the day before the game. And I'll never forget Dean Kemp saying to me that it was one of the most important moments for him in the build-up to the game. So that was nice, and given that he was an absolute superstar, Kempy. So So that really, we felt like we were part of it anyway, even though we couldn't be part of history.
The first half as Heady soccers towards half forward. There's the siren. It's half time in the grand final.
Half time, come in, we're behind. I go back to my locker, I put my mouth guard in there and I look in there and it's, again, there's this piece of paper. The first thing I see, this A4 piece of paper, this death before defeat. And I still don't know to this day whether most blokes had the same feeling as me, but you know, I had the real feeling that if we didn't win the game that Nick Malthouse was actually going to kill us.
I don't recall us being down by that much now that I think back on it, because I just felt that we had some momentum, and Tony Evans' couple of goals was obviously crucial for that.
Taken now by Evans, who changed his mind in mid-air. Changes his mind again. From 45 metres out, it's another goal. Well, what a big turnaround there at one end.
Yeah, look, that was just something that we'd be dreaming of as a team. You know, since I came into the comp in '89, just to play in a grand final and then to win one was just great. And you know, you really at the time you don't think too much about it. You're just joyous about the moment, and that's about it. And then I think as the years have gone by, you reflect on it a bit more and just see how important it was, probably for WA and the West Coast Eagles in general.
There were a few guys playing that had been there in the early days. It was just great reward for them, and I think to get that progression in such a short period of time is just wonderful credit to a lot of people. And it was a wonderful springboard then for the club to get to the stage where it is now, where it's, you know, one of the most successful clubs in the AFL.
MATERA on the 50, he could kick this. MATERA, it's going to be a goal. The Eagles are going to win their first leg.
Time that when the siren goes and it's all over, I think that's the relief, the ecstasy all in one, and we're on the bench and we all jumped up, and you know, I think that'll be a memory that we all hold forever, and the joy on the faces of the players. And I think the joy for all West Australians to see their team actually win. People said it had never happened, and we'd actually done it. So I think the initial joy is just unbelievable.
Absolutely marvellous result for this footy club and for everybody involved. And yeah, it was just an amazing feeling, and to share that with everybody. The amount of people that went over was incredible. We thought we had a massive amount of support there, and we did. Yeah, just a great day for the family, great day for the club obviously, and a great day personally.
Number 17, Guy McKenna.
I can barely remember my first kiss. I barely remember the first time I got my licence and drove for the first time, but I can't go past the '92 grand final. It was our first non-Victorian side to do it. I was up, I think, at 5:30 in the morning when I watched the America's Cup. You know, the first time in 132 or 136 years or something that Australia or a foreign yacht had taken over the America's Cup, and that's what it felt like. It was just amazing. I remember the photo of Maney, I think on the Monday. He'd broken his ankle just about, but he played on through that. Ended up seeing the game off on the bench, and the photo on the Monday paper with Maney leaping off the bench. I said, that's something I can't forget, because you know, Maney was such a big part of West Coast, and then for him to jump off that, I reckon that's when it actually dawned on me that we've actually won this thing for the first time. It's just that photo encapsulated everything. Robbie Wiley was there, and as I said, Maney jumping off there with a broken ankle just said and meant so much to me then.
Well, a great moment for the West Coast, a great moment for Western Australia as West Coast create history by taking the AFL Premiership Cup back to Western Australia